Good day and greetings from the Great White North. My name's Prickly Poo and welcome to day 37 of A Year of Change. We're going to sort of not really have a topic so much as prepare you for the topic for this week. Before we get into that though, in the interest of being open and honest, I did go over my calorie number yesterday. It's the first time I've done it since we actually started this up, and all that happened was I had made ribs the day before and was able to stay under. And then I ended up having the leftovers in the morning, which put me about 2/3 of the way through my day. And part of the hazard of waking up at 5 in the morning and having ribs is that you're very hungry throughout the day. So by the end of it, late last night, I had a regular meal and it put me way, way over because ribs are insanely high. Ribs are one of those things that it's really tough to determine the calorie count because you have you take a lot of the fat off. There's bone in it. There's a whole bunch of stuff. For those of you that are curious, when you finally figure it out, and this is what I've ended up doing with it, I sort of compared it in between bacon and lean pork because it is sort of a tenderloin thing. I generally take as much fat off it as I can, and then I just bake it dry. I don't put any sauce on it or anything else. So roughly it's when you're weighing it raw, before you take the fat off or anything, just rate from the package, whatever it says on there. It's generally about 150 calories for every 100 grams, which doesn't sound like a lot, but a half rack of ribs, which is pretty big, is about 800 calories. So that's why, or no, about 1,200 calories, sorry. So that's why I went over. But back on track again. I could have probably stayed under had I just stayed hungry throughout the day, but I don't want to sort of get into that because, not just because it's difficult, but because at that stage, then I'm just going to eat everything first thing in the morning and then be hungry all the time, and eventually it's going to cause me to slip up. So I did go over yesterday. I'm sure some of you have gone over once or twice. We'll say once, just so that we're all on even footing. But back on track, and things are going to go fairly good from now on. I had bought them when they're on sale, so I have another rack of ribs in my freezer. I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Anyway, the topic this week, we're just going to sort of touch on the same thing throughout the entire week. I had mentioned this last time, that we're just sort of going to focus on body image. Just how it affects men, how it affects women, how it affects kids. All the little things, people tend to blame the media for a lot of it. But we'll sort of touch on different subjects back and forth. The reason why I sort of wanted to preface this week with this is that it's going to be one of those that it's a sensitive topic. It's going to be a fairly heavy topic as well. And obviously we aren't going to be able to cover everything that we need to cover within 15 minutes. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be missed. But hopefully it's going to initiate a conversation in the comments or on the MyFitnessPal group where people can sort of talk back and forth and give their own opinions and offer advice and things like that. So I didn't want to just sort of dive right in first thing Monday morning and start in on a really heavy topic. And we'll break it up throughout the week. We still have another 6 or 7 days, so we'll be able to break it up and put in little happy bits in between. But the main reason why I sort of want to talk about this is that it's something that we've briefly touched on in the past, but we haven't really delved into. And specifically, you haven't really delved into the psychological aspect of it, in that how it affects us. I mean, we all pretty much know personally how it affects us, but just some difference that I'm hoping are going to shed some light on it, on how we sort of get to where we are and why we don't strive after looking the way that we want to look. Just a bunch of little things that sort of meld in together into the body image topic. So I figured that we would start out that way. For example, it's generally assumed that the media and magazines and everything else put forward this image that is, for women anyway, that is almost impossible to reach. Waif thin, tiny models and all that stuff. And oddly enough, when they've repeatedly done studies, they find that body type in general, I mean, different people like different types, but in general, that's the body type that women view as ideal, as opposed to men viewing it as ideal. Men seem to go for the more traditional, I don't know if it's traditional. I'm trying to think of a good non-offensive term, but I'm going to just say not waif-like figure. Here, we'll do it that way. And we'll get into that later on throughout the week as well, that there are differences between what men find to be the most attractive and what women find to be most attractive. Now, again, this is very, very general. There are some men who like 500-pound women. There are some men who like 90-pound women. There are some women who like the bodybuilders. There are some women who like fat guys. It's going to be different all the way around. But this is just sort of an overall generalization. So sort of take that in stride when we're doing this as well, because we're never going to be able to touch on all the subjects that we need to touch on. We aren't going to be able to get all the opinions that are out there. The main thing for this, of course, is just to sort of bring it up, talk about it, and start things off in the comments and things like that. So this is why we're doing it. But it is, as I say, it is a fairly heavy topic. So we'll probably have a day of one and then step away from it, do something else, and then have another day, just so that you're not bombarded with 5 or 6 days in a row of just, we're ugly, we're fat, and we're gross, and no one likes us, and all that stuff. Because by the end of the week, you're not going to want to even watch any more of these. So, but aside from the intro, that's really all this is. It's going to be a very, very short video. I've had a number of longer ones throughout the week. And I've made a number of mistakes through them. No, not the least of which was saying that olives come from a vine, which I don't understand why I did that. They come from trees. It's weird because when you're doing it, and I probably made some mistakes in this one as well, you don't necessarily see those mistakes until I go back and try to do editing, and I think, that doesn't make any sense. What are you saying? So I often don't go back and rewatch the entire thing. Generally, I make sure that it's not stuttering, there's no flickers and flashes, and generally when I'm editing, but every now and then I'll catch something. Which is generally when I put up those little captions where I had a cat hair fall down from my face that time. So I'm getting way off topic, but yeah. So anyway, we'll get back on topic. So body image is going to be the main topic this week. We have started adding vegetables to our diet as well. Keep tracking your foods, keep tracking your liquids, keep drinking the water. We're going to have another change later on next week, but this week, where we're sort of getting everything together where it needs to be. I would like to address this before it gets to a point where a lot of us are, say, 6 months down the road. We've got a good stranglehold on what we're doing, and other people that are sort of just coming in, maybe looking at this, because people don't often start at the very first video. They'll find 2 or 3 going on. I don't want to have it so that, quite frankly, I don't want to have it so that it looks like I'm losing weight and you're losing weight and then we're fat bashing. So I'd rather do it while I'm still fat. And I'm sure 6 months down the road I'm still going to be fat. But I'd like to do this fairly early. And that might be part of what we talk about as well, is what's considered fat shaming now. Because that sort of goes hand in hand with the body image thing, our perception of it, and how it affects us. I mean, obviously, it affects women much more than it does with men. I think that's sort of common knowledge. We'll also sort of delve into how it's affecting kids. And a few days ago, I had actually recorded a video regarding childhood obesity, and it was way, way, way too heavy for the end of the week. So I had re-recorded something. But we'll revisit that and take a look at how our eating habits are affecting our kids, and how we're sort of putting them on the same path towards the same ridicule and heartache that we've been going through for our entire lives, and how we can sort of try to, hopefully part of this program is going to be to try to break that cycle so that when we start eating healthier, then our kids start eating healthier and things like that. So when it comes to adults, we're pretty much responsible for ourselves. When it comes to kids, it's a lot of what we feed them that, causes them to be the way they are. But that's sort of jumping ahead once again. So, in summary, I have gone over I'm going to just get back on track and get on my regular schedule again. It was just one of those things that I had, again, as an adult. I went out, I purchased it, I brought it home, I prepared it, I cooked it for like 4 hours, so it's not as if it was a surprise. So, and I knew that if I was reasonable, then I wouldn't go over. And then yesterday, it was just a matter of, no, I'll have these in the morning and not thinking through. And then by the end of the night, just saying, oh, to hell with it. I'll just go over this one day because I'm really, really hungry. And otherwise, I'm just going to sort of nibble on stuff all day and not track it. And I'd rather have a regular meal that's healthy and something that I can put down and say, okay, this will be good. This will count for something. And I actually went quite a bit over. I think it was about 800 or 900 calories over. I think it was more than 900. Yeah, it was in the 900s anyway. So that'll give you an idea how bad ribs can be for you. Not to say you can never have them, but just keep in mind, if you're going to have ribs that day, you're going to go over. It doesn't matter what you do, you're going to go over. Unless you have one rib, which makes no sense. So anyway, back on track today. Back onto a regular schedule of having, reasonable breakfast, and then throughout the day, and then coming home at night, and having a reasonable dinner. And this is going to happen from time to time. I've said this before, and I'm sure some of you have gone over at some point. Maybe not by 900 calories, because that's a tremendous amount. That is really, really a lot. But normally what I would have done in this situation is just say, no, to hell with it, and then just stockpile as much as I could. And then the following day, it's much, much easier just to say, oh, well, I went over yesterday. I don't care. I'll start over next week. And then it turns into, well, I'll start at the first of the month. And then, no, I'll start at my birthday. And then, no, I'll start at Christmas. And, oh, well, 4th of July is coming up. So it's really imperative that if we do have a day like that we just get right back into it the next day. And just say, okay, I went over. It's fine. I know why I went over, which is more important. It's not as if I just was looking at it going, I don't understand why I just had one of those days where I was hungry. I know exactly why I went over. And chances are, unless I'm careful, I'm probably going to end up going over again once I decide to thaw out the second batch. But those are the moments when you think, okay, well, instead of just having ribs, maybe cut out the serving in half and add in some vegetables to fill me up. See, there would be a smarter thing. At least we can learn from my mistakes. That's what we'll do. But yeah, so I figured I would share that with you because I really have no way of not sharing it. My diary on MyFitnessPal is public, so people are going to see it anyway. I don't know how high I went above the fat or the cholesterol or anything else. I'm sure it's sky high, but we aren't really tracking those yet. So, but I figure it's best for me just to say, good enough, here's what's happening, and it sort of gives you, I don't know, not misery loves company, but just the fact that if you've gone over, some of you may not have. Some of you may have stuck with it right all the way through to day 37, which is great. But for those of you that have gone over, maybe not 900 calories, but you've gone over a bit, hopefully this makes you feel a little bit better that someone's going over with you, at least at one point. I'm going to try not to do it again, obviously, especially where I know where the source is. And I pretty much knew when I was making it where the source is going to be if I did go over. But again, you're not alone. We are going to stumble every now and then, but just like today, start again, have a regular breakfast, get back on my regular schedule, and I'll go from there. It doesn't help that, of course, last week I lost 0.2 pounds, which makes no sense to me, but you never know. That was before the ribs, so I'm not exactly sure what's happening there, where I've plateaued off or something. And it might just be a bad week. It might just be that, I don't know. It might just be something I can't even think of at this point. But try again, and, in the long run, it's going to even out to roughly 2 pounds a week, so I'm not too worried. But this overall has been a fairly bad weekend for me. I went over. I haven't lost any weight. So all the bad things that are going to happen have happened now, so I'm hoping that I'm going to get back on track and keep things even. So, and I'm pretty sure it's I've been tracking things properly, so maybe I'll just take a closer look at that and see if I need to track things in a little more detail. There are some foods that you really sort of need to estimate, but I always find it better to err on the side of caution and overestimate than underestimate, and it has been working, but I don't know, just a weird week. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'm going to keep going, so I'll just cut this short because it's another thing I noticed in the other ones that I tend to start rambling and repeating little bits and pieces here and there. So, in short, back on track. We're going to have a fairly heavy week in regards to the subject matter, but it's not going to be anything that's at the end of the week you're just going to go, God, just change the subject. I need to talk about something else. It's depressing. It is something I think that we should talk about because for a lot of us, it's the main reason why we started this. More than I think, oh, I need to get healthy. It's, no, I'm tired of looking this way, and I'm tired of people staring at me, and I'm tired of, sort of being the brunt of society jokes and things like that. So we'll touch on those throughout the week. But as for right now, that is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching it. If you liked it, please poke the like button for me. And in the meantime, keep yourself warm and fuzzy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.